Alright guys, this is a long playing review for Barbarian II, the Dungeon of Drax, on the Amstrad GX4000 console, and of course the Plus computers, released by Ocean Sofware in 1990. Although this was of course originally released by Palace in 1989 for the Amstrad CPC range on tape and disc for a much lower price. And the cover art was 200% better for having Maria Whittaker on it. Instead, we're stuck with just Wolf from Bloody Gladiators. And yes guys, this will be my last GX4000 review for a while. We've been celebrating 30 years of the GX4000 on my channel this month of September 2020 as we're going to October. So this is my last one for a while. So yeah, this is already a cut down effort put out by Ocean, although the subtitle of The Dungeon of Drax is new. And as we boot up, we're also missing the loading screen picture, and it's straight into a text menu to choose between playing as the warrior or the princess. Now, seeing as I've already done a long play of this on my channel, but it was over 10 years ago and the quality is crap with no commentary, in that I played as the warrior, so here we'll play as the princess. Princess Mariana. But yeah, the 1v1 fighting and 2-player mode of the first game was dropped here in favour of a more arcadey adventure, but at least you get a new character to play as. But it's annoying they haven't bothered to redo the options here for gamepads. Remember, the GX4000 doesn't have a keyboard, just that damn cheap pad. And yes, this card is also for the 464 Plus and 628 Plus computers, but this is just plain lazy. All they had to do there is put press fire button on pad to start, or if you're on a Plus, press K for keyboard, or indeed just remove all options of playing on a keyboard. Although that may be a bad idea, because I found it a lot easier to control on the keyboard with precise key presses rather than a D-pad, but then that's just me. Anyway, let's start. And straight into combat, in what is rather gruesome but colourful surroundings there. We've got a severed head on a spike there with hair blowing in the breeze there. We've got a volcano active in the background. A river of blood? Or is it a river of lava? You decide. But problems are already apparent there, like limited combat. That enemy there could only attack with a down swipe or whatever. A cavern to jump over there. And green skull to pick up there, which gives us an extra bonus life. Your lives are the 5 blue jewels at the top of the screen there. And we've actually now got 6 lives, but there's not enough jewels to display a counter. And there's an item we need to pick up. Okay, so let's give you a quick overview of the game so you know what's going on. So essentially there are 3 levels, including a final level with 2 boss fights. There are 2 items to find per level. On the first 3 levels. You will need all the items before the boss fights, which include the evil Drax as the final guy. Without them, you cannot beat the game. You may be able to skip a few certain items, but you'll definitely need the key to progress in the 3rd level, and the jewel to scare off the living idol, which is blocking you from reaching Drax. So on this long play, we are going to find all the items. We're also going to try and find all the skulls too for the bonus lives. And yeah, when you're against enemies like this, the combat's a little bit better because you can vary your attack moves and stuff. And sometimes it's better to do a low attack than a high attack. You've got to judge the distance and how your enemy is moving into you. That's where things are a lot more interesting. When you're fighting small little creatures and there's only a 1 attack move that you can use against them, that's when things get a bit sort of tedious and the shortcomings of this game are apparent. Now, these levels are a bit of a maze. They don't sort of, to me, flow logically. As you can see there, we're on left off the screen and we've come through a cave and the compass is now pointing to south or whatever. Well, actually, confusingly... Oh, hang on. We've got a decapitation there. Ha-ha! It's probably like the best moment in the game and the best thing you can pull off and do. So, the sword, which acts like a compass, the sword is always pointing to the north. So does that mean if you go right off the screen, you will be moving north? I presume so. But often when you go right off the edge of the screen, you can often end up like coming onto the opposite side of the next screen, and the compass then changes, and it's really confusing. I think they really needed to work out the mapping system a lot better. So moving off right here. Now we've actually gone through a cave, and north is down. Is it? I don't know. Does that mean we're now facing south, or does that mean that north is south of us? I'm confused. If I'm confused, you're confused. So what I've used here is a map from the from a ZX Spectrum website. The map layout is identical on both the Speccy and Amstrad versions, and I've just basically followed that. If I had to, otherwise I would have had to map this myself, and this long play would have taken bloody ages to do. Also, I have done this game before on my channel, as I mentioned earlier, but I think I skipped looking for all the schools for the bonus life, so we're going to find them here, and then we're going to move on. I mean, look at this combat here. It's just tedious. All you can do against this creature here, whatever it is just those kicks. You just stand there, holding down the fire button, pushing left, and waiting for it to just move into your foot. And look how long it takes to kill the blooming thing. Also, our energy bar is to the top right. The enemy's bar is to the top left. As you can see there, a picture of Drax represents the enemy you're fighting. And God, this is taking forever. My energy is already really, really low, so I didn't want to attempt trying to beat this game without losing a life, because it's near impossible. In fact, it probably is, because you don't get any energy restores or health restores or whatever. And yeah, you've got the picture of the warrior there, top right, to represent your energy, but it doesn't change to be the princess's head. Now, we've got a problem there, because we need to like jump over this pit. Nice sound effect there as I fell in. I actually screwed up. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to run and jump across, or kill ourselves and end up spawned on the other side. Waggle the joystick left and right there to get if you're teetering on the edge there, and that's why I find it a lot easier to use keys actually rather than a D-pad, because just hammer the keys left and right. Oh, that noise signifies we're near the exit of the level, and you can see level 1 there in the bottom right there, sort of flashing. And we just got this Neanderthal in the way. Don't get the headshot move, but it doesn't really matter. And there we go. On to level 2, into I think the caves or whatever. Actually, probably what I should do is give you the story of the game quickly. Actually, before we do that, on the first level, the 2 items we were looking for was the globe. That shields you against death from Drax's magic. I think that's instant death from it. It can still hurt you, and we also picked up the shield, which guards against instant death from the demon's fire, which is like the bad guy just before Drax. On this level, the green schools are now yellow, and we're looking for the potion, which apparently increases your resistance, although it didn't seem to make much of a difference. And the jewel, which is absolutely essential to beating the game, you must find it. The jewel disables the living idol when the idol is reached, and that's the bad guy before the demon, which is before Drax. So there's 3 bad guys to reach at the end. Story of the game. Right. Oh, there we go. We just got the potion, which increases your resistance. So the story: at the finale of Barbarian, the Ultimate Warrior, the Barbarian defeated the warriors of Drax and thus freed Princess Mariana from his evil spell. Drax fled to the dungeons beneath his black castle, vowing to wreak disaster on the jeweled kingdom. It is decided that there is only one way to stop Drax. The Barbarian and Mariana, herself an accomplished swordsman, are the only 2 warriors skilled enough to survive the perilous journey to Drax's lair. Oops. Again, I've got a bloody evil giant crab in the way. And it's not spawned me where I want it to. Never mind. They must stop him before it's too late. So if I carry on the story here. You must fight your way through 3 levels. The Wastelands, which we just did, the caverns, sorry, it's the caverns, not the caves, and the dungeons before arriving at the 4th level, the inner sanctum of Drax. These sections must be played in the correct order, where you have no choice but to really. Each of these first 3 levels is a maze consisting of approximately 28 screens. As you view each screen, it is possible to walk left, right, or into doors or caves at the back of the screen. It's quite hard to see which is a cave here on this level, but you get used to it. You can see there's one we just come through and it's right in front of us. The direction you are walking as viewed on a map is continually changing, and therefore a compass in which the sword always points north has been provided at the bottom of the screen. When you reach the exit to the next level, display will pulse as a warning. It is not advisable to leave without first collecting all available magical objects. In each of the 3 levels, there are 2 magical objects that you will need to collect in order to survive the quest. There you go. We've got a list of the monsters here. On the Wastelands, the first level, we fought against the Saurian beasts, Neanderthal men, apes, mutant chickens, stabbers, and floaters. On this level, oh, watch out for these orange things. I'm not sure quite what their names are here. If they manage to jump on you 2 or 3 times, they'll then knock you on the floor and eat you, and it's instant death. So just go for a low attack, and when it sits down, ready to pounce, get ready to kick. There you go. And so on this level, the monsters are the carnivores, which might be this thing we're fighting. Orc guards, that's like the skeletons. Nice touch, actually. Bit of Jason and the Argonauts. Always love like an animated skeleton. Crabs, as we've seen. Slithering things. Cave trolls and stingers. Oh, the stingers are those things with the wiggling sort of tail, the spike in it. Oh no! Just been eaten by the carnivore, I think. I think it's the carnivore. And on the next level, we'll be fighting dungeon pit things, dungeon masters, giant grubs, gobblers, eyes, and orsolets. Some of those creatures you can actually jump over, the small little creatures on the floor. Most of them, well, a few of them anyway. So yeah, if you survive the Sanctum of Drax, you must face the Living Idol, a Great Demon, and then finally the dreaded Drax. So yeah, there's actually 2 monsters before Drax. The first one is the Living Idol, which we need the jewel on this level to get by. Without the jewel, he doesn't disappear and bugger off. And then we fight the Demon. And we need the shield from the first level to protect you from instant death from it. Oh, actually, though, he's actually quite easy to defeat, so you don't really need the shield, as long as you don't get hit once by it. And then Drax, and we need the globe from the first level, which will protect you from instant death from his magic, but he does quite a bit of damage anyway. Actually, he's not really a skeleton, is this? I was saying it's quite Jason and the Argonauts, but no, he's quite clearly got green flesh, so I don't know what I was on about a minute ago. Anywho, but yes, for those of you familiar with the CPC original, there is absolutely zero difference between either version, the CPC or the GX4000 one. And it's a lazy rush job to get a GX4000 cartridge out. Presumably there was pressure from Amstrad to have games ready for the system's launch. So some may wonder why they chose Barbarian II of all games, but at the time this was highly praised for its graphics and animation, and it just about qualifies as a contender to go up against Nintendo and Sega Master Systems offerings maybe. Although White Ocean didn't choose something better, like, I don't know, buying the license for Turrican, or even a reworked Gryzor with hardware scrolling, is anyone's guess. But the best guess is time pressure to have games for launch. And indeed, Barbarian II was definitely one of the few games on shelves and available when the console went on sale. So yeah, this is quite obviously a rush job to try and get games in shops ready for the launch of the console. Apparently, Boots banned the CPC and disc version of the game, released the posters and displays of Barbarian 2 at the time, but not this one. This had a more, well, it didn't have Maria Whittaker on the cover, so that's probably why we've got a change of cover and box art. And apparently Barbarian 3 was planned. We'll see at the end of this game, on the ending sequence. But then Palace had been sold to Titus, and it was cancelled. Okay, let's have a quick look at the credits here. So, again, this was designed by Steve Brown, who of course designed Barbarian 1. As we reach the end of this level here, you can hear it flashing, the noise and the flashing level 2 there. He also produced Cauldron and its sequel. And for the original Barbarian, Steve famously posed and filmed himself a fake sword, so artists could videotape him and then could replay the footage on a VCR and painstakingly trace the movements onto a transparent sheet stuck to the TV for that wonderful animation. This time he used a book by Edward Muybridge, I can't pronounce that very well, called Human in Motion, quite a famous book, and it still produced really good animation here, as you can see. So the coder of this game, oops, I love that noise when you fall down a pit. The coder of this game, it's not the original Barbarian coder here of Andrew Fitter. Instead, it's a guy called Paul Atkinson. Before we talk about him, these little green goblin monsters, or I don't know what they're called actually, are bugged on the Amstrad version. You cannot time a low. You had to hit him with a low swing of the sword, and you just cannot time it. It is almost utterly impossible. The only way to do it is if your back's against the wall, push then left into the wall, and you do that kind of bounce off the wall, which disorientates him, and then you can get your sword swing in. But if you don't have that, it is almost impossible to time a low swipe. I've had to face this guy coming out the other way without the wall behind me to bounce off, to sort of put this guy off. Bounce off the wall there, you see. And I took a snapshot to practice, and I think I hit him once out of like 100 times. So unfortunately that is bugged, because on the Spectrum and Commodore 64 versions, you can quite easily hit him as much as you want, and he's quite easy to defeat. So we also have a bug in the game, or playtesting fail, which they haven't fixed on this version because it's present, I'm pretty sure, in the CPC original. Oh yeah, so we'll talk about the coder here. Right, so yeah, the coder here is Paul Atkinson, although the title screen tells us Barbarian 2 is coded by MC Lothlorien Limited and programmed by Paul Atkinson. Surely coded and programmed are the same things? Anyway, I don't understand what MC Lothlorien had to do with this game or their connection. They were a separate company to Palace, so maybe Palace subcontracted this out to them, I don't know. Which would be strange, as they were doing quite well with their games at the time and had their own developers. So onto the coder Paul Atkinson. His only other Amstrad games were Missile Ground Zero, a light gun game for Virgin, Pro mountain bike simulator for budget label Alternative Software, but credited as MC Lothlorien, and Super Trolley for Mastertronic, and the less said about that game, the better. Anyway, we're trying to pick up a key here. Now, on this level, there's two items, the key and the axe. Now, there's 4 possible locations for the key and axe to appear in, but they're different every time you play this level. So the key might, if you load this up again, the key might not be there. It might be in a different location. If anybody wants the map and the locations and the markings and route I've done, I can perhaps provide a link for that in the description below, or a comment if anybody wants it. But there's 4 possible locations, and they can change each time you play the game. But to be honest, this isn't a big and too difficult level to traverse, so you should be right. One of the few enemies on this level that you can chop the head off there. Nice. That was the Gobbler, I believe it's called. Now you've got the key, you can now go through these portcullis gates. Right. Last thing about the coders. Unfortunately, I don't know who's doing the sound effects here, but they're actually rather good, such as the noise when you're about to fall down a pit and then when you actually fall. Or indeed when a monster laughs at you. But we haven't seen this on my long play, because I don't think one of them has killed me that laughs at you. I think the Orc Guards on level 2 and the Neanderthals laugh at you when they kill you, or you run off. lots of fit in very quickly then. Other versions of the game, Commodore 64, this was the lead platform and released first. There's nice music on the title screen and has a cool character select screen as well. Gameplay and graphics wise, it's the same and as good as the Amstrads, but it does have much better sound effects and arguably the best 8-bit version, even better than the GX. ZX Spectrum, unfortunately the worst looking version, opting for a horrible mostly pink with blue combination on the first level, including colour clash. Yuck. The sprites are well defined but are slow to be drawn, meaning sections of the sprites in movement often appear later than other sections. The almost two-colour graphics perhaps makes this look more obvious. Otherwise, it's the same as the Amstrad and Commodore versions. This also appeared on the BBC Micro Electron. Has a character select screen of the Commodore 64, but that's perhaps all it has going over the CPC and Speccy versions. Sound effects in places are awful and grating. Sprites and plain area are a lot smaller and don't look as good. Sadly, it's probably the weakest 8-bit version, but it's not a bad effort. And then it was on the MSX as well, but it's just a cheap Speccy port with less sound effects. Onto the 16-bits, went onto the Atari ST and has some really fantastic sampled speech and sound effects. Really the standout thing here. Graphically, of course, it's improved over the 8-bits, although weirdly it kind of feels more cartoony. I've not played through it, but gameplay and layout looks the same. And then we move to the Amiga, which is clearly another ST port. But this one goes a bit further with a nice intro sequence with some cool music, additional sound effects in game, and a nice cutscene when you have to change discs featuring a talking skeleton. It also lastly appeared on PC-DOS. The US release retitled this as Acts of Rage, bizarrely. But outside of the US was still the original name. This had some title screen music, which is not much to get excited about. The graphics and sprites are quite different here, with a different look and feel. It plays fast, but a bit choppy. Otherwise, again, gameplay and layout is the same, and a decent effort on the PC. Overall, I think the best would... Oh, that is a location potentially where an item, one of the items, the axe or the key might spawn. Sadly, it's not there. As for magazine reviews at the time, well, the CPC original was reviewed in the May 1989 issue 44 of Amstrad Action, but they didn't bother to review the GX4000 release until their cartridge roundup in issue 80 May 1992 issue, where they gave it a lackluster 62%, commenting that graphics have come a long way since 1989, but Barbarian II hasn't, in a short summary. But back to the original review, the tape disc, they said Barbarian II is both highly playable and infuriatingly difficult at the same time. It blends extreme violence, black humour and the puzzling mazes so well you can hardly see the joins, and so they liked it very, very much. They gave graphics 93%, Sonics 88%, grab factor 94%, stain power 89%, and an overall AA rating of 92% and master game status. But that was 1989, and I think at this time this was quite a revelation and quite a bit special, but it didn't age well, and it didn't take long to either. A year later this was looking a bit creaky, especially in 1990 for this release. And gameplay deficiencies were more noticeable, especially when you're paying £25 for this on cartridge. Oh yeah, the monster laughed at me there. And then I chopped his heart out. That serves him right. Nice touch. People probably assume this would also arrive on budget soon after the GX release too, and that would have been like $2.99 or $3.99. There was the axe. We've got the axe now. Now we can go fight Drax. So judged as a GX4000 cartridge game up against what Nintendo and Sega were offering, this is unfortunately subpar. Judged as an Amstrad CPC release a year earlier, pretty decent. But so it's hard to give a score here, but I'm annoyed that it didn't add anything new to the game and improve any of the annoying aspects of the gameplay and deficiencies with the combat and certain monsters you're having to fight and annoyances. Getting knocked off the screen and having to come back again is bloody annoying. In fact, we have less things here. So for that, I'm giving this a very, very generous 6.5 out of 10. But there you go. So we've also got bugs in the game with that little green goblin monster of the axe. So there you go. Certain enemies you can jump over. And yeah, combat can get very, very annoying, especially if we've got green slime on the floor that is knocking us back here as well. And also, actually, Steve Brown, the designer, and Palace founder Richard Leinfeller, that's how you pronounce his name, later admitted in interviews that Barbarian 2 wasn't as good as they hoped, possibly ruined by trying to put too many features in it. But yeah, it's a confused game. It wants to be sort of an adventurer maze thing, collecting items. It also wants to have the combat from Barbarian 1, and it doesn't quite mesh well enough together. And that's a shame. Good intentions. Alright, here we go. This is the living idol. Remember, we had to collect that item to get past the living idol. The jewel. You just need to walk into him. And off he pops. We're now against the demon. We needed the shield to protect ourselves from the demon's fire. But the demon isn't getting any fire off quick enough here because our low attack there easily dispatches him. And now we're against Drax. And remember, we needed the globe to guard against instant death from Drax's magic. And you need to chop his head off. The famous head chop move. And there we go. Drax is defeated. Is he giving us the sign there? You know what? All right, I'll leave it there. How rude. But there you go. You get a bit of credits there. A nice little ending sequence. And it says, look out for Barbarian 3, which sadly never materialised. There are lots of annoyances in this game, guys, that I can go on and on and on about. It's a very frustrating experience. The map is completely confusing with the compass and where doors and exits lead to and come out onto. The combat against certain enemies is boring and dull. But it does look nice, even on the GX4000. Lovely animation and colourful graphics. So, all in all, a 6.5 out of 10 from me. And thank you very, very much for watching. And goodbye.
So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Xyphoe, out.